It's about 33 years ago that I was driving to school on a cold, windy, wet day, going up Burning Mountain on that big hill, and I was listening to the radio, and that morning the chief of the police was on the radio that morning, and a girl phoned up and said, "How do you become a Vancouver police officer?" And he said, "Well, just go down to the police station and fill out an application form." So I skipped class that day, filled out an application form, got hired in 5 months. And that's how it was done 33 years ago. But today, if you're interested, go to vpd.ca, check it out. Anyways, I am going to talk about social media and the June 15 Semi-Cup riot. And let me start off by saying that the Vancouver Police kept the peace and policed 24 playoff games in a very successful way. We use a strategy called meet and greet. We're making eye contact with people. We're not trying to be too oppressive. Yeah, there's some discretion in terms of people are being a little exuberant, but we are trying to keep a lid on behavior, and it went very well for the first 24 games. I imagine some of you were downtown during those, especially during the final round. We would use social media in terms of Twitter to remind the public to behave responsibly. For example, you can see one of the tweets, I'm not sure if you can read it, but it talks about our enforcement statistics and points out, yeah, it is illegal to drink in public and to behave responsibly. Well, as you know, June 15th resulted in a Game 7 deciding game in the downtown Vancouver area. And we were just amazed by the number of people that showed up that day. Way too many people for such a small space. Obviously, any controls that were there in terms of fencing and security were overwhelmed by the numbers of people. People arrived very early, and people were very drunk as well. You've all seen the images of the riot and TV news clips. Some of you might have seen part of it in person. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but what I will say is that the Vancouver Police deployed our crowd control unit officers, and we called in reinforcements from the RCMP. A lot of them were positioned in Surrey because there was a concern that Scott Road and 120th might be a problem. And as a result of the officers being called in, deployed strategically, we were able to suppress the riot in 3 hours. No loss of life, no serious injuries. We protect people first, property second. Yes, lots of property was damaged, lots of property was stolen, and we are involved in a very significant investigation, which I'll talk a lot about in the next few moments. And out of that, also, I'll just point out only one conduct complaint. Somebody thought they shouldn't have been arrested. And that's quite amazing because when you have large disturbances of riots in other jurisdictions, quite often the number of police complaints greatly exceeds any number of charges that might be laid. During the riot, as I mentioned, there were citizens in the middle of the riot that were getting on Twitter, getting on email, and saying to the police, hey, I have information, I have evidence of people breaking the law. And the laws that were broken range from participating in a riot to damaging property, which is mischief, to assault. We had sex assaults, we had break and enters, which is looting, we had thefts, you name it, we had it during that 3-hour period of rioting in the city. So even before it was over, people were stepping forward wanting to help the police. When the riot was over, that evening and the following day or two, lots of social media started happening in terms of justice. People were posting pictures that they took, they were naming individuals, they were asking others to come forward and say, do you recognize this person that's committing this type of crime? All sorts of websites were having pictures appear, ranging from Flickr, YouTube, you name it. That's when pictures were being posted. In fact, special websites were created. Individuals launched these. You can look at Facebook pages, and you can just see the numbers of people that went to those sites and posted their likes or dislikes. In fact, it became overwhelming for us because the information that was flowing into us in terms of video files, email tips, phone calls, we basically had to say, look, we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But tens of thousands of these tips were coming in. And also on these websites and for the public, we were concerned because a form of online vigilantism was starting up. And we were concerned that people would be named that may not be the individual in the picture, or of course being publicly shamed and publicized when they haven't been found guilty by a court of law. So in fact, about 5 days after the riot, we went public with our concern about this, and we even issued tweets about our concern. Social media also helped the city heal in terms of the next day because I think many of you know a cleanup campaign was launched. Individuals going down to the front of the Hudson's Bay Company, writing on the plywood messages of hope and inspiration, and helping clean up the damage that those rioters caused the night before. That police car that you see was parked on the street, and the officers went to just a routine call. When they arrived back about an hour and a half later, what started off with one sticky note on it became a police car covered with sticky notes, talking about how much people appreciated the VPD and our work the night of the riot. And that public support is greatly appreciated. So let me get into the investigation into the riot. We formed an investigative team with police officers from other municipal police agencies. That includes West Van, Port Moody, the Delta Police Force, and also the Transit Police. But we also brought in RCMP officers. An integrated team was formed. The team was going through all the digital images and video that were being sent to us, and we launched a website, which you can see the URL right there. Examples of online photos were posted. I will tell you that of about the 150 pictures that have been posted, we've got positive IDs on roughly 50%. So that's great. And the public has been coming back to that website, hundreds of thousands of hits. Every time we put new pictures on, we get new people going on, or other people going on and helping us identify these riders. But that's only the beginning, because these cases need to be investigated. We can't do it like CSI Miami. It does not take an hour. Some of these reports to the prosecutors are 500 pages in length, and they are designed to also get a lot of guilty pleas, and they're very strong cases, and that's what we want to do, so we don't tie up the courts with lengthy trials. If you go to the website, in fact, you can leave your information, and a lot of people have done that when they've provided us with tips. One of the challenges that we've had with this whole investigation, as I mentioned, is the volume of digital evidence that was sent to us. Now, as a comparison, in the 1994 Semi-Cup riot, we had 100 hours of video. That was all VHS. That's all we had to go through. In 2011, we're dealing with over 5,000 hours of video. And we have to catalog it all. So what we did was we talked to a law enforcement association, a nonprofit group called LEVA, Law Enforcement Video Analysis. And they have a lab at the University of Indianapolis where you can go in and process video in terms of capturing it, cataloging it, and then creating literally a search engine. So you can see that picture behind you. Those are the analysts at the LEVA lab in Indianapolis. And the analogy I'll draw is, imagine going to the internet without a search engine and just looking for, say, a video of Justin Bieber, going through every single YouTube clip that you might find, 15,000 of them. Hey, is Justin in this one? Is Justin in that one? And then going through 20,000 Flickr image pages looking for a picture of him, right? Well, of course, we know we have this Google search engine or YouTube search engine, and you punch in a name and you get to the relevant sites. Well, that's what literally we're doing. We had to create a database that allows us to search. And so the video analysts use a program called Avid. And if you go to any TV newsroom, that's what they use. So that's how they capture video from all the newscasts over the years. And the Avid technology is something that allows us to sort the video, catalog it. And now if we have a suspect who perhaps has a Canuck jersey with Ryan Kessler in the back, the guy's perhaps wearing a Yankee ball cap, we can just enter those search terms, and right back the system will give us the video files that relate to that descriptor of that suspect that we're looking at. When I showed you that picture of the number of people that were in downtown Vancouver earlier, that was actually obtained from a website, and I don't know if any of you have seen this website before. It's still up on the internet. But to show you how much quality there is in the video images that we have, if you look at that tree, so the first green tree in the middle, if you go to this website, you can zoom right to the base of that tree, and this is how clear the image is. So social media has been a great asset to us in terms of helping us gather the evidence to charge these riders, but it's also been a bit of a curse because there's just so much evidence to go through. In fact, when the LEVA analysts went through the data, the digital images, and this is simply watching video literally frame by frame, they cataloged 15,000 separate acts of criminal behavior. And some of these 15,000 are images of the same crime. So you might have a guy throwing a rock through a window, and you've got 3 or 4 people with their smartphones taking that video, and that's the images that we have right now. And for the technically inclined, there's a bit of the statistical breakdown of the comparator, 7,500 DVDs full of evidence. So in summary, some of the top surprises that we encountered during this investigation is the public was overwhelmingly helping us, giving us their digital images. I call this riot the first smartphone riot, and you've all seen those videos of people taking pictures, images. We've got a lot of that. It's still coming in, and we're still looking at the new evidence. And we haven't even got the TV news footage yet, which we've issued a production order for and asked the courts to support us, and hopefully the TV news stations support us in this investigation. I mentioned earlier the social justice aspect of naming and shaming, and while naming people is helpful to us in terms of tips, public shaming is something that we were worried about and we warned the public not to do in case somebody innocent gets caught up in all of this. When we went through the video for a 3-hour period, there's a massive amount of criminality, 15,000 criminal acts. Like there was thousands of people committing carnage, mayhem during that period of time. And most of you might have seen footage of just around where the post office was on Georgia Street, but there was a lot of rioting happening on Granville Street, especially around Nelson, and a lot of that wasn't actually on the TV news because they didn't have their cameras up there. But again, we have footage of that. And then the technical challenges, 100 different file formats. And we have to make sure when we copy the video over, we don't lose pixels. We have to satisfy the courts later on that the evidence hasn't been altered. And that's quite challenging. We have to be very, very careful. So we have civilian analysts that have been working very hard in helping us process this video. We have delivered 60 reports to the prosecutors requesting charges. And in British Columbia, the police don't lay charges. Prosecutors approve the charges, and then they're laid. And so that's before the prosecutors right now. We've got another 40 ready to go. So essentially, we're in a position to charge 100, and we can charge many more over the coming months as soon as the prosecutors get ready to do that. One of the things that concerns us right now is that we are a little bit worried that the public might lose some interest in coming back to the website. And I look around in the crowd like this, and especially some of the young people, you might think, hey, those riders, I don't hang around people like that. But if you think back to maybe your grade 12 year and think of the guy who was taking your lunch every day and making fun of your clothes, and it was in the principal's office every day, I bet they're on that Riot website. And speaking of the Riot website, let's create some motivation for you to go look at. Sometimes technology can only get you so far, and we publicized a few times that, hey, there's more pictures on the Riot website. But recently we thought, let's go back to the future. And we created this poster, which is called the Riot Roundup. Did anybody get one of these? Because we were at the we were at all the educational institutions giving these out. And it starts off with why you should help. Here's some information there. And it also talks about how the Integrated Riot Investigation Team works. And then it opens up to 104 images. And 35,000 of these were given out by our volunteers. And it got media coverage. And actually, a couple of the TV news stations referred to it as going back to the Wild West days when you used to go to the local post office. And it was the wanted poster up on the wall. And this was very successful because of the 104 people, half of them have been identified. And many more people that didn't get the poster have gone to the website. So I think we're going to do this again. One last comment back to the riot itself. And yeah, absolutely, it was a bad day for Vancouver. We wish it didn't happen. People were harmed, people were hurt. Businesses lost thousands of dollars. So there's millions of dollars of damage. And there was a commentator who was on the public airwaves afterwards talking about, this is $1 billion bad publicity for Vancouver. Well, as time has gone on, it actually hasn't been. And I'm not saying it was a great day at all. It was a bad day, but it hasn't affected tourism. It hasn't affected the worldwide view of Vancouver. And I bring that up because you just never know what might go viral on the internet. And so 2 days after the riot, a friend of mine was in Amsterdam, and he said, yeah, the Vancouver riot made the front page of their newspaper. And guess what picture it was? Guess what made the Today Show? The kiss. Yeah. Anyways, thanks very much for listening, and we'll talk to some of you at lunch.